Okay, anybody with an immediate question? Well, I didn't see anybody drop after that test. I don't know why they would. I told you it was going to be easy. And now I'm going to tell you to believe me. And I'm going to tell you the next one's not going to be easy. So please believe me and sort of study accordingly. You probably didn't need to study quite as much as you did for the bones, but you probably do need to study as much as you think you're going to have to for the muscles. Okay? It's not going to take up all your time or anything like that. Did you do anything special on the Orange County opening weekend?
I went to Stater Brothers.
uh, which one?
The one out here in Lake Elsinore.
Oh my God, Lake Elsinore. Oh, I have great sympathy for you. When I was a kid, my father, well, you might as well know it. I hated my father. He's the reason I never wanted to become a parent. Uh, uh, but he had this thing about traveling, big deal, short distances. He'd go off to the desert in the hottest day of the year. And once he decided to take us to Lake Henshaw, which was boring, and it still is. And then he wanted to take us to, and did, Lake Elsinore. Lake Elsinore. Got out there, a dry lake bed, and you walk to the middle of it, and there's a puddle of fluid that might measure 2 feet across. That was the entire Lake Elsinore. Its name at that time was Poison Lake because it was deadly poisonous to any animal that drank that stuff, uh, so high in minerals and other things, I suppose. That was a treat. uh, I could not see them doing anything with that, but I was just a kid. And of course, now they've opened it up, and a lot of our faculty and such have moved on out there. It's more affordable still. What could you do at Lake Elsinore? Oh yeah, nowadays you can have boats and stuff. Just don't hit the sunken houses. Uh, when they refilled it, they couldn't stop the flow, and it buried lots of houses. Okay, what else? Anybody do something?
I went
Well,
to Target.
so far, Stater Brothers is ahead. Okay. Uh, Target, if you still want to get COVID, that's probably the place to go. Okay. Okay, well, anyway, I'm just stalling a little bit, giving people time to get here. I think we've got enough here. Uh, Usually, at the most, we would get 33 at the most, and we got 29 right now, so we're fine. Now, I asked you a question, but I still want to see if you have any questions about anything, the test itself. I'm not sure that people still understand.
Is this
Yes.
coming test? Is it about the? It's not the. It's just the lectures that we've covered within the first 2 weeks, or including this week.
Okay. This lecture test, because it's our starter, it's actually in the end of the third week, so it's going to be actually a tiny bit longer than maybe the other tests. By longer, I mean cover more material. I'm not saying it has more questions. It has 100 text type questions. Maybe there's one or two that will be images. It's going to cover everything that says lecture on our modules for the first week, the second week, today, and tomorrow. It is not going to cover Wednesday, so you have a day of grace there when you don't have anything new to study. There will be a lecture on Wednesday, but that'll go on to the next test. Got it?
All right.
Okay. I'm still not sure that people understand. It's probably my fault for saying it different ways. When are your outlines due? There's only 4 dates, okay, that outlines are drop dead due. One of
Before
those,
before each practicum.
exactly. The first one has passed. That was P1. If you turned in 3 outlines prior to P1, well, then you got them. Okay. I actually assigned 4 chapters, but I told you could do 1, 9, and then either 6 or 2. Some people did all 4, in which case they're ahead of the game for the next submissions. Okay. If you did not turn in P1, then just keep it, study from it if you wish, but it's not acceptable now. P2, which is July 1st, okay, a week from this Thursday, is the date that the subsequently assigned chapter outlines are due. What would those be? If you did not do all 4, and most of you didn't, of course, then you owe me either chapter 6 or chapter 2. That's coming for P2. I've assigned another chapter today. I'll show it to you in a moment. We'll go over it actually. It's chapter 10, and it is going to be due for P2 as well. Okay, there may be one more short chapter, making a total of 3 again, and that would be for P2. It's not assigned, however, yet. So,
Charlie,
yes,
so if you didn't turn in chapter 6 and then you assigned one today, can we just go ahead and turn it in those 2 today or tomorrow to be on schedule?
turn in what today or tomorrow?
Sorry, the chapter 6, if we didn't turn it in, because I did chapter 2 instead.
No, if you did chapter 2 and 1 and 9, you did 3, okay, for P1.
Correct.
You're fine.
Okay.
Okay. Chapter 2, the one you held off on turning in, but you've done it now, right?
Yes.
Okay. That can be turned in at P2. However, it can be turned in anytime prior to P2 if you want to get it off your computer.
Okay.
Okay, and I just accumulate them in a folder. Take a look at them, see how you're doing, and that'll be fine.
All right.
Charlie?
Yep.
So which chapters are due by Thursday?
None.
We don't have to turn in anything else by Thursday.
Oh, I have a discussion for you. I have a reading assignment for you. The reading assignment does not have to be turned in until P2. The discussion, I would assume that most of you actually would benefit from what others are saying. I've asked you to discuss methods of studying the muscles. And since you haven't started studying them yet, I don't think you'll do that discussion until when? After Thursday. You probably won't. You can do it as early as you want, but after Thursday, is a good time because you don't interfere with your studying for Thursday.
So chapter 2 does not need to be turned in by Thursday.
No,
Okay, thank you.
the next turn-in date is P2. That's July 1st. Then P3, then P4. Okay.
And you said we had a reading assignment?
Yeah, I'll wait till we share the screen though for that.
All right.
Okay. Actually, I think I usually do it without sharing the screen. So if you happen to have your book, great, get it out. If you don't have a book, but you're taking notes, get the notes ready, and a pencil or a pen, and we're turning to chapter 10, skeletal muscle tissue. The first page when you get there will say overview of muscle tissue. Anna, you spend more time on Canvas than I do. It keeps a log of how many hours, minutes, or whatever. It really doesn't tell you much. It does tell me that Anna spends more time hour-wise than I do, but doesn't mean that somebody else who has a lower accumulated number of hours isn't spending the time. They could be downloading everything immediately and studying it offline, you know, which is probably what I would do.
Professor? Or
Yep.
sorry, Charlie? What page is it for you?
No,
Because I believe we have the same book.
well, I'm on 242 and edition 7.
All right.
But it won't be the exact page for other editions. You're looking for chapter 10. They don't change the chapter numbers. Okay, if you're ready, then on the first page, the overview, yes. Properties of muscles, contractibility, excitability, extensibility, and elasticity, yes. Functions of muscle tissue, absolutely. Types of muscle tissue, skeletal, cardiac, smooth. So I haven't eliminated anything yet. I think the diagram that is labeled table 10.1 is good until you don't understand it anymore because you haven't read the back part of the chapter. So it's one of those that is good to mark. I don't know if you use Post-its or anything like that, but you can mark it to come back to. And then I've got to check your understanding on the next page. And you can skip that or you can do it. It's your choice. Gross anatomy of a skeletal muscle. Okay, yes. Epimysium, paramysium, endomysium. You don't have to be writing all these words down. You really are most interested when I say no. I haven't said no yet. Okay, I will. Nerves and blood vessels. No. Muscle attachments. Yes. That continues on and finishes at another check your understanding. The muscle, the skeletal muscle fiber, yes. Myofibrils, sarcomeres, that'll be the subject of tomorrow's lecture. Yes. It's like, why is he bothering to do this? Just tell us to read the whole chapter. No. Okay, I would take a look at table or figure 10.4. It will probably get to a point where you don't quite understand it. Don't give up on it. Go past it. Finish the reading that I give you. Come back. Come back and look at that. On the next page, I continue along till I come to titin and other myofibril proteins, and I'll tell you no. Sarcoplasmic reticulum and T tubules, I'll tell you no. Going to talk about it, but you don't need to outline that part. It's a little difficult to outline, actually. Mechanism of contraction, yes. I have a clinical application, which I will read probably, but I do not need to outline. So we're back to mechanism of contraction, yes. Muscle extension, no.
Charlie, what about figure 10.6?
Let me go back. The top two diagrams on 10.6 would be useful. Thank you. The third one, it's actually labeled B, would not be. Okay, muscle extension on the other next page, or where I left off, no. Fiber length, no. Innervation of skeletal muscle, no. Motor unit, no. Let me look ahead. Okay, I probably could have put it earlier, but types of skeletal muscle fibers. Find that, put a line, write stop. That's as far as you need to go. Okay, there's 35 in the class. 2 are taking it again and don't usually show up for our meetings here. So 33 is usually what I expect. They're taking it again and not showing up for meetings doesn't mean they're going to screw up again. It means they're using the recordings and their material from the past. But it's still more people than normal. And I'm getting a lot of special requests. By that I mean, can I take the test early? Can I take the test late? I have this practice, that practice. I have mandatory meetings. I understand those things, but you're starting to stretch me too far. I can't make 33 exceptions for a test. I can't put a test on another day and have it come out right on Canvas. It fouls everybody else up. So I'm either going to say no, you can't take it another day. You'll have to miss a test, and then according to the syllabus, it tells you how we deal with the missed test. I hope that does not happen. Uh, and uh, well, I'm trying to think of the other situation. Now, if I've already made an arrangement with you, okay, So I already made an arrangement with you, someone over the weekend. I will keep it as I said, okay? But you need a really good reason to uh, ask for some sort of difference, if I can call it that. It's just getting impossible. Uh, you guys ask a lot of questions. I like that. And you find a couple of errors. I love that. I don't love having errors, but I like that we find them. Okay. I'm not telling you not to ask if you have something coming up or whatever, but I may not be as flexible as I want to be. Okay. Any questions?
Charlie?
Yep.
Sorry, so I don't think I caught these last two when you were saying yes or no. It was muscle fiber length and the force of contraction.
I said no.
No, okay, and then also there's like innervation of skeletal muscle.
I said no.
Cool, thank you.
Okay. Okay, let's put this to share screen. Okay, you can see module for week 3. Yes. Okay, great. Not having any more trouble with that. You do have a weekly assignment, okay, or it's a week 3 assignment within week 3. You know, when we say week 3 for us, that's a 2-week period in the regular classroom. So, and this one is the muscle chapter. Okay. Okay. The first thing you need to do is either get me chapter 2 or chapter 6. If you didn't do it for P1, but did the other one. The second thing is to outline chapter 10. And this will be gone over in class. We just did it. Okay. So this is due on P2. I put a date by this one so you know it's the real thing. The discussion, very simple one, sort of freelance here. Tell others how you are learning the muscles, their origin, insertion, and action. And maybe you have a better way of doing it, and maybe they have. Okay. See how it works out. Last week, the discussion. I read the discussions. Okay. And on the this little, you can't tell what this is. I realize that's me, barely. That's me standing in the Namib desert in Africa. I always wanted to be there. It's the one place I always wanted to be, with these ghost trees. So I made it, but not this weekend. Okay, so what I'm telling you is I read these, I look for errors. Once in a while, the student has it wrong, or the person answering it has it wrong, and no one's correcting them. So this first one was a tough one. It was regions of the abdominal area. Actually, I told you not to read it. The abdominal area is broken into quadrants or into ninths. And depending upon which system you use, your answer is going to be different. So I wrote a little blurb down here. You can look for my little symbol. everything's okay, unless you see my little symbol where I'm butting in. Okay. This one asks on tissue types, which of the following is not a type of tissue? Well, we know the four main tissues: epithelial, muscle, nervous, and connective. What about epidermis? Epidermis is stratified squamous connective tissue. I'm sorry, stratified squamous uh, epithelial tissue, and it is a tissue. Okay, just because we only have four main groups doesn't mean there's not a lot of tissues amongst them. So there really was not a correct answer for that particular one. Okay, appreciate the question though. And what else did I find? Anything? Here I am again. The question was, can you withdraw a question? Oh, okay, I see. There were two questions. What's the functional unit of compact bone? The answer is osteon, and it's not provided. So the correct answer is here. It's none of the above. During endochondral ossification, what is the area between the primary and secondary ossification centers that remains cartilage? Well, it's not the osteon, it's not a syndesmosis, it's the epiphyseal plate. Okay, it's there. This person didn't get it this time. This person did. And I think I butted in because there were two answers and you wouldn't necessarily know which one is right. Now you do. Okay. One more. You can read it. Muscle tissues are lecture topic for today. It's a short one. That's fine. That's why we're taking up so much time with the other stuff anyway. Okay. The functions of the muscle, actually, we skipped by them when I was telling you what to outline and what not. It was there. Motion, locomotion. What's the difference? I'm looking at the screen. I see somebody moving. That's motion. Is it locomotion? Locomotion is when they get up and go in the other room. So there's a difference between motion and locomotion. To maintain posture or a position, okay. If you can strike a pose, in other words, how are you keeping it? By opposing sets of muscles. The production of heat. When we shiver, we produce heat. When's the last time you ever shivered? Maybe not around here. If you went camping someplace, you might have. The circulation of blood is helped by the contraction of muscle and the movement of muscle in the body. As the muscle variously enlarges and contracts, especially when it flexes or extends, it's going to squeeze on the blood vessels, and especially it helps blood in the veins to move back towards the heart. We have three types of muscle. They're in blue. They're skeletal muscle, cardiac, and then smooth muscle, also known as visceral muscle. The two things we ask, what's up? The two things that we ask that would separate the three different types of muscle is the muscle voluntary? Can you choose to use the muscle to make it move, to make it perform an action? Yes or no? Okay, let's look and see. Skeletal muscle. Well, uh, your arms, your legs, your chest, that's all skeletal muscle. And you can choose to hold your breath, for instance, and stop it from moving for a while anyway. Make it move. You can flex your forearm. You can extend your forearm. So yes, skeletal muscle is voluntary muscle. Cardiac muscle, is that voluntary?
No.
I have no here also. Okay, and that's the party line, that it's not voluntary. I disagree with it, but don't you dare disagree with it when it comes to the test. Okay, because no is the correct answer. I disagree that the cardiac muscle is involuntary. In sometimes anyway. For instance, if I decide, I want my heart to race faster, I can go running around the block, and it does. I can just sit still and think of the scariest thing to me, whatever it is, and my heart rate will go up. I can make it go up. I can also meditate and bring it back down again. Okay. So, although I disagree with it, the answer, the pat answer here, uh, it's the one that you're going to give on an exam. Smooth muscle is also known as visceral muscle. And is it voluntary or not? This is the muscle of the organs, all of the organs. Okay, the stomach, uh, also the blood vessels are lined by muscle. The tunica media that you'll learn about later is smooth muscle, but we consider it to be involuntary. So the answer is no. Striated muscle. Striated muscle, meaning it has streaks running through it. I have a picture in just a moment. Skeletal muscle definitely will fit that category. It looks like the reticulated underneath of a snake. Okay. Cardiac muscle is also striated, but smooth lives up to its name. It does not have the striations.
Charlie, I'm sorry, what did you say it has running through it? Striated muscles? Striated muscles, what did you say it has running through it?
Oh, I said, I don't know the word I used. I wish I could play back instant here. I probably said it has streaks running through it. That's not an anatomical term. I haven't shown it to you yet. It's coming up on the screen later. Okay, hang on.
Thank you.
Okay, here it is, one screen later. This is skeletal muscle. And can you see the striations?
Yes.
Okay. And to me, I always said it looks like the underside of a snake. A lot of people have not seen the underside of a snake, and nor do they want to. I've seen too many snakes, and it wasn't intentional. I woke up one morning, there was a snake in my bathroom. It was a rattlesnake. Okay, now the striated muscle is also known as skeletal muscle. This one is. And you'll notice long bands of muscle tissue that are not branched. And the nuclei are at the periphery. This spot here looks like a nucleus embedded inside. It's not. It's on the other side. It's underneath. We're seeing through the muscle. Okay. That's why it does look so blurry. These can be on any part of the cylindrical muscle periphery. Here's cardiac muscle. And you can see the striations, especially right here, here. This is highly magnified because striated muscle is more dense and smaller in the heart than it is in the skeletal system, but they're both first and foremost striated. And now look at this muscle, it branches. Here it's branched, there it's branched, there it's branched, here it's branched. Okay, skeletal muscle is not branched, cardiac muscle is. Cardiac muscle also shows a number of these intercalated discs that I'm touching right now. These structures are important in causing the muscle to be able to contract, but they're quite outstanding compared to the rest of the muscle. The biggest difference is going to be that cardiac muscle is branched. This is smooth muscle. This could be lining the outside of the stomach, small intestine, the inside of any blood vessel, whether it's an artery or a vein. Smooth muscle, don't forget, is also called visceral muscle. I use the terms interchangeably on the test just to keep you sharp. Be sure that you know it. Well, when you look at this, they basically, the muscle fibers seem to run in roughly the same direction, at least there, maybe not so much here. But look how elongated the nuclei look. To me, I remember it because, first off, it's not striated. And second, it looks like a bunch of fish in a stream that's passing quickly by. And it's sort of blurry looking down into the stream. In the skeletal muscle, which is the main one that we're really going to be studying, a skeletal muscle is broken into parts. There's one part that's called the origin. This attaches to a bone by way of a tendon. A tendon attaches muscle to bone. The bone's not shown here. The origin is the part of the muscle that during contraction remains relatively stationary. The other end the insertion moves towards the origin when you contract the muscle. A muscle can only do one thing. A muscle can only contract. In order to get, for instance, to flex your arm, to flex your forearm, that's bend your elbow. Do it mentally, do it physically, for real if you want, but flex your elbow up, that's your biceps brachii, that is working on that. Now, the biceps brachii has contracted. It can't uncontract. How do you get your arm back down? You have to use a counter or opposing or antagonistic muscle, the triceps, to pull the arm back down. You can also use gravity. You can bend over and the arm will fall back. Origin stays put during contraction. Insertion moves towards the origin. The thicker portion of the muscle is called the belly. Great anatomical term. This belly might actually be broken into two parts. This top part and an underlying part. This might be your calf muscles, the gastrocnemius, right where the pointer is now, and the soleus here. Don't worry that you don't know those terms. I'm just pointing out the fact that the belly of a muscle can consist of more than one part. Okay. It can have two heads, or it can have two origins. The biceps lives up to its name. It has two heads of origin. Again, I'm not going to go any farther yet because I don't want you to feel lost at this point. We're going to cover the material in depth later. So here's the definition of an origin for you. It's exactly what I said. And an insertion. Sometimes, and it's rare, a muscle can act with the origin and insertion reversing. Think, for instance, of your xiphoid process. Your rectus abdominis muscle, the six-pack muscle, attaches there and attaches also at the other end at the pubic bone. Okay. Now, lie down on the ground, or mentally, of course, lie down on the ground. And you might bring your legs up and hands behind your head. And now lift your head. Do a crunch. And as you do that, the xiphoid process is the insertion, and it's being drawn towards the pubic arch, the origin of this muscle. Okay, now lie back down. Okay. And this time, instead of doing that, I want you to bring your legs up and over your midsection. Roll up. The xiphoid process becomes the area of the origin now, and the part that is moving is at the pubic arch. So we can reverse roles in a few muscles, but for most muscles, it can't be done. When we have an examination, I don't trick you. I steer clear of those questions. Here's some common terms. Flexion, that's the action of a muscle or a set of muscles when the angle at the joint is decreased. Okay, arm straight out. Okay, palm up. Bring your palm and bring your whole hand back towards you. Straight up. That's flexing. Bring your fingers. Put your hand out straight. Bring your fingers into a fist. That's flexion. Bring your elbow up so that the forearms, the radius and the ulna, come close to the humerus. That's flexion. Okay. Whenever the part of the body is the angle that is there is being decreased, that's called flexion. The opposite is extension. Okay. Relax your hand. Your digits are curled. Now stick them straight out. And the muscles that are doing the working are on the not palm side, but the back side of your hand. And that's extension. Lower your forearm, and that's extension done by the triceps. Okay. Abduction. Think of abduction as kidnapping, taking away, taking away. Abduction is the action when part of the body is moved away from the midline. So if you can imagine somebody standing in anatomical position, okay, they have their thumbs out, but their palms forward. Now, raise the arms so that they are perpendicular to the, or parallel to the ground and perpendicular to the body. Raise the arms straight out, not in front of you, to your side. And that's abduction. Okay. Take your hand and just look at one hand. Close the hand, not into a fist, but bring the digits together. Okay, like you're going to slap a ball or slap a person, for that matter. Okay, now spread your fingers. That's abduction. When you bring the fingers together, that's adduction. Adduction is when the part of the body is moved towards the center line. Pronation, that's to turn the palms down. So put your arms in front of you. Your palms probably are already down. That's the normal tendency of people. Well, then put the palms up and we'll do supination first to turn the palms up, or to lie on your back is to be supine. Pronation is now to turn the palms down, or to lie prone means that you are face down.
Charlie,
Yes.
in my medical assisting program, there's just a little thing that I learned the difference between supine and prone, and it's just silly. So if you think of like a bowl of soup, you would think like your palms are outward, like your hand looks like a soup bowl, and that's how I've always remembered.
Okay.
It's silly, but I never forgot it.
Some of these things are silly, and some of them are personal. I mean, there are some of the things that I use to remember things that I wouldn't tell a soul, you know, about. Okay, we're going on now and start the looking at the muscle from the pretty macroscopic view. And there's a paragraph of reading here that refers to the epimysium, paramysium, endomysium, and the fasciculus. If you just read the paragraph first, you might get lost. But you got a picture right underneath it to go with it. Okay, so here we go. Here's bone. Okay. Here's tendon, which attaches a muscle to a bone. Now, I'm not worried about if this is the origin or the insertion. There's no way I could tell from this drawing. But the entire muscle is surrounded by a sheath. Okay, it's in two parts. It's called the epimysium. This is actually superficial fascia out here. If you had a muscle on a cadaver or a cat, you'd peel that off if you want to. You don't have to. It makes it look better. But then all the way around the outside, that's the epimysium. Inside of the epimysium are bundles and bundles of muscle fibers. And each one of these bundles is called a fasciculus or a fascicle. This is a fascicle here, telescoped out as if that could actually be done. Here's a fascicle, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and here's the 7th fascicle. The fascicles are also surrounded by connective tissue. That connective tissue is called the paramysium. The epimysium surrounds everything. The paramysium just surrounds the fascicle. This is paramysium here as well. Now, the diagram will trick you and make you think that epimysium and paramysium are completely different things. By definition that I just gave you, yes, they are different things, have different locations, but the epimysium is actually continuous with the paramysium. But the paramysium drops inside and around. The epimysium does not. Well, we pulled out one of the fasciculi. They're calling it fascicle. I'm calling it fasciculi or fasciculus. That's all the same thing. And we see these little spots in here. They're not spots. They're not flat. They're elongated. And if we can pull one out, whoever did this diagram sort of made this look like some sort of worm or larva. Okay, but here's pulling this one out. This is a muscle fiber. A muscle fiber is a muscle cell. There's more to pull out, but this diagram doesn't go that far. The next one does. Okay, epimysium on the outside, paramysium surrounding the fasciculus, a muscle fiber being brought out. Surrounding the muscle fibers within a fasciculus, follow the arrow everywhere in here surrounding. That is endomysium between the fibers. Endomysium. This may look different, but it's actually very similar to the one we just looked at. Start back here. The tendon is off screen. Here's the belly. We have cut it. We're very good at cutting. Okay. The epimysium is on the very outside in white. Here's a fasciculus, and it be surrounded by paramysium. Here's the paramecium down here, surrounding the fasciculi. Here's a fasciculus here, the only one that the diagram draws out. Okay, we have more fasciculi. So just learning the arrangement here. There are muscle fibers inside, and they're completely surrounded by endomysium between the fibers. This is as far as the upper diagram that we just did goes. But now we're going to pull out a muscle cell. Okay, just a single muscle cell. Here it is. Single muscle fiber, same thing. If we could pull that out. And then we're going to pull out one more thing. A myofibril, an organelle within a cell. The muscle fiber is a cell. The myofibril is an organelle. The myofibril doesn't show it in this diagram, but you will see it soon. Has striations. Because of the way it's constructed, it will have lines or striations on it. When we push all the myofibrils back into the muscle cell, the whole muscle cell gets striated or appears to be striated. When we push the muscle cell back into the fasciculus along with all the other muscle cells, they're all striated. The striations are lining up. They're becoming more and more clear or dense. And then we push this back into the muscle itself, and the entire muscle appears striated, like the picture we saw earlier. All of this will be in the chapter 10. Okay, anybody with a question?
Charlie, would it be beneficial to have the chapter 10 outline by the lecture exam for reference?
Most people won't do that, but I would say absolutely.
Okay.
Yes. Yeah, that's a good study technique. A lot of us, including me, realize when there's a good study technique, and doesn't mean that we're going to use it, but that would be good. Okay, let me give you a break. Okay, today until 1:15.
Charlie?
Oh, yeah, go ahead.
So you would recommend just going over like a good strategy for studying? Would you just recommend studying the lectures that we've already covered so far?
The strategy for the lecture test on Thursday is for
Correct.
you to backwards and forwards, upside down and inside out, know the notes that are labeled lecture material. You need to know them every which way, but that you can. There's no getting around it. There's no getting around that at all. If you're only wishy-washy on the stuff, you're going to miss those questions. Okay. Some people are going to do excellent, and those are always the people that end up telling me they memorize those notes. They could almost recite them themselves and give the lecture. But I'm telling you that since we got the screen right here, let me get this off. Don't worry, I'll give you your break. You get the same amount of time. Okay, right here, the intro lecture, which was very minor. joint lecture, ossification lecture, levels of organization, everything that says lecture. If it says lab, no, that lab is for lab. Okay, we did that last week. So moving down to week 2, cellular processes. Okay, so the vision, and then what we just did today, and will do tomorrow.
Got it.
Okay, I can't make it clear. I wish I could make it easier, but you need to know that material.
And the one that was like Charlie's site, is there anything that we could be able to study off of that, or was it just the like the bones and the muscle?
Okay. When we come back, I'll go to that website. There's a couple things I do want to show you that's changed for you. But no, these are lectures on the modules. That's where the information is coming from to construct the test. That's it.
Cool. Thank you.
Okay. Okay. So 17 after now. Okay.
Charlie, can I ask a question?
Yes.
So looking at the muscle tissue lecture and then looking at the different types of muscle, are we just to be able to look at it and tell you what it is, or do we have to say like label what's inside of it to tell the difference?
I don't use too much labeling on lecture exams.
Okay.
Some I do on some things. I'm not going to on this one, but there's no reason that you should think that you should skip over that. Okay. I mean, not that I'm going to make you label it. I would like you to understand it.
Okay.
And if you had the ability in your mind, let's put it that way, to label it, then you can understand it. Okay. Don't skip over it thinking, oh, we don't have to label it, so I don't have to know it. That would be that would be foolish.
Because yeah, I'm looking at the the little text underneath, and it says like some have striations, and then where the nucleus is or what the cells are. So just to be able to understand what that means in order to identify the types of muscles, if you were to look under a microscope without any labels.
You're going to have plenty of that later.
Okay.
You will have tons of that.
Okay. And then the other part was the different types of muscle actions. Are we just to understand what it is versus what muscle would flex and the other would extend, or is that going more into later lectures?
Okay, that's going into lab today.
Oh, okay.
Okay, so when we come back, that's where I'm going.
All right, thank you.
Okay. I'm not going to add any extra time now because we'd be here all day, which is fine too. So 17 after. Okay. Okay,
Hey, Charlie.
howdy. Okay. Anybody think of anything? Question? Lost on anything yet?
Do we have to outline the neuromuscular junction?
No.
It's on, okay.
Let's see. Okay, well, if I'm not gonna, if I don't get questions now, I probably never will, because I got everybody here. Everybody's here. The lecture exam, uh, don't let it fool you into thinking you did really, really bad. First off, you won't if you study for it, but there is no extra credit associated with the lecture test. We've taken the extra credit anyway and put most of it in your Zoom attendance, and most of you got 7. That's how many Zoom labs or sessions we had, and you had that added to your practical. A couple of people got 6, and I think one person had 5 added to their practicum, but all the scores are fine. But I'm not going to add them to the lecture test, even though you would have had what, 1, 2, 3 sessions. Not enough. I just say them up for the practical exam, and then if you got all 7 of them, or 6 or 5 or whatever you got, they'll get added on there. Okay, they will get added on. Okay. But don't be discouraged when the scores are probably going to be lower. There's no way, for instance, somebody who got 107 on the practicum can get that on the lecture test. It's just not possible because there's no extra credit. Okay, there'll be the 40 points of extra credit scattered throughout the course. I think we have 32 for the Zoom conference, and another 8. I'll put together a quiz for you. Okay, total number of points is what counts. Okay, no questions? Okay, let's go back. You can see me, right?
Yes.
Okay, gotta know.
Yes.
Thank you. Okay, the Charlie's website, is that still here? Yeah, somebody was asking me about that. Okay, the only thing that's changed really is the reading assignments. You can go here. You'll see that chapter 10 now is assigned, and it's due at P2. This material here that's listed as lecture topics, uh, this is all included in the Canvas topics. I'm going to look at module 3 for week 3. Come down to the bottom. You can see I have the test, the lecture test in there. That's supposed to be hidden, and it would be hidden from you. It's supposed to be hidden, period, right now. but that's one of the things that you have to be careful with Canvas. Occasionally it just opens up on its own. And I usually try not to even put it down there in its proper place. Okay, so it's there, but just before that, I have a list of terms for lecture test 1. Okay. You could have found this on my website as well. Okay, if you look at these terms, so far if you're looking, they should all look familiar. But there's more of them than you thought. These are all terms that were in our notes. You haven't had this last little bit on the muscle yet, which you'll get tomorrow. But these terms you need to be able to recognize. What I would do is go through the list of terms and ask myself, can I, in my mind at least, put together a sentence saying what that is? Okay. And if I can't, then I better mark it and come back to it and try to put something together. Okay. These are all terms that we had. Most of them were in boldface type. I know it doesn't seem like we had that many, but there they are. And they certainly will all show up on the test on Thursday. Okay. Our lab has several links today. A human muscle lab, condensed muscle chart, and then cat muscles, which we won't go into today. This one didn't open up, so I'm going to click this, and it'll open up here. There's a lot of information. I'm going to cut it down a little bit for you, but let's just see what it is. These are the names of the muscles that you'll need to learn. There's 58 or 48 that I feel strongly about. And then others, I think these are easier, down to about 70 muscles. Can you do it? Yes, you can do it. You've already shown yourself to be capable of taking on that first test better than my previous class. And they didn't have that much trouble with this. It just is a shock when you first see it. Get over it. Get over it. Here's the name of the muscle, the trapezius. Okay, you can click on it. It's muscle number 1. So here's number 1 right here. And this is the trapezius muscle. Actually, there's 3 parts to the trapezius. I'll talk about them as we go through them. There's the spinal trapezius, which is this one. This one is the acromiotrapezius, and this one's the clavotrapezius. But for right now, then, this entire area is the trapezius muscle. Well, worry about that in a moment. It has its origin, 3 different origins, because there's 3 different parts to it. Occipital bone, the spines of the C7, and all thoracic vertebrae. Insertion is the scapula and clavicle. And what it does, that's its action, it extends, elevates, rotates, and retracts the scapula. Some of these have multiple actions, like this one. Okay. I want you to just think, because it's going to be a multiple choice test. Think about the presence of the muscle. Move the muscle yourself. Move it on you. See that it does these things. I can see you now taking the test and contorting, but that's one really good way to learn them. Now, before I scare you too much, I'm going to go to this one, human muscles. I'm sorry, below it, condensed human muscle chart. Does that look the same?
Yes.
Does anybody see the difference?
It doesn't seem to be as detailed.
Yep. It's not as detailed in the origin and in the insertion. It is exactly the same, however, in the action and in the name. This is the chart that you should use if you feel you don't have the time. If you want to use
Charlie, I
what?
don't believe that chart is available to us on Canvas.
I don't know why. It's a link. It's an external link. I just put it on there.
I think it's still hidden.
Oh, that could be the problem. Thank you. So let me go back and check. You're right. It's hidden. There it is. Okay. Now, are you using a second computer?
No, just one.
Then how are you doing it? Splitting the screen or something?
Yes, I can open multiple windows on Chrome.
Okay. I just wanted to know how you were following what I was saying, and then also finding that.
Well, I had printed out these charts prior to our lecture today, and that one was not available.
Okay. The other, it wasn't. You're correct. I got that, but I only put it up like 5 minutes before, so that could have been the reason you didn't see it that time. Okay, but it's there now. It's there now. Let me go back to it. Okay, the names are all exactly the same. The origins are the same if they're short. But instead of giving you the marking of the bone, like the spine of the scapula or the chromian process, I've just put scapula, the bone. And then for the insertion, just basically the bone or bones. The action, however, the same. Okay? This is the chart that most people use, and it will get you a perfect score on the practicum if you know it. Okay. It's also good to group some of the muscles together, like all these that originate from the humerus. Okay. That often helps out quite a bit. You go down. Now, when it says not required, the extensor pollicis, that's what we call the hitchhiker's muscle. The hitchhiker's muscle raises your thumb up, okay? And that under action extends digit 1. Okay, that's fine. But origin and insertion, I'm not asking you for that. Okay. So you don't have to worry about anything that says not required. When we get to the cat muscles, people always want to know, why do we do cat muscles? We're actually required to have some sort of dissection in the face-to-face lab. Now of course, that's what we can't do face-to-face at this time. They want something similar to it. They want some comparative anatomy. Well, when you look at the cat muscles and you realize that the cat's orientation is different than you, the way it walks is different than you, it would expect so many different organs, insertions, and everything. But the reality is only, I've looked at it, about 10 muscles that are considerably different in the cat, and the rest are not. For the cat muscles, same sort of page. In fact, this origin, insertion, and action, these are the human origins, insertions, and actions. Okay. I haven't provided you with cat origins, insertions, and actions. So you can go ahead and use the muscle, though, to learn the muscle. If we hit trapezius, it's on the back of the cat. Here, the spinotrapezius, acromiotrapezius on top of the scapula, and here at the neck, the clavotrapezius. The key is down here, but you can enlarge it just with a single click. But you lose the key at that point. So take a look at the key first. Okay, after the cat muscles, I've got for you muscles of the back, arm muscles. This is the lecture for tomorrow. And here for the lab tomorrow, forearm muscles, chest muscles, abdomen muscles. Let's look at the first lab muscles. These are of the back. We're going to start here, and then I want to go back up to the very first link I had, which showed you a plastic model. This will too. Okay. The first muscle on the back that we're looking at is the trapezius. The trapezius is triangular shaped. You only need to know it as trapezius. Here it is over here. You don't have to know the three parts. Those parts were the spinotrapezius, acromiotrapezius, and clavotrapezius, meaning it goes over to the front and latches onto the clavicle. Trapezius. You'll use the chart that we'll go back to learn the action, and you can also learn the action right here. This is making a set of flashcards if you wish to print it out for yourself. However, if you make a set of flashcards, you might want to actually go to the trouble of cutting it down to that sheet that I showed you that has that's more compact.
So Charlie, the test that we're gonna take, practicum 2, it's gonna be more condensed answers, or sorry, questions.
I'm going to use the condensed sheet.
Sweet.
If you know the full-on sheet, you may feel better about yourself, and you should. You may feel that you're going to have more use for this than the other people in class, because muscles is going to be your territory rather than microscope work or something like that. Okay. If you know one, you know the other. So there's your answers for trapezius. The action is always the same, okay, but the insertion and the origin will be abbreviated on that second sheet that I showed you. Here's the lats, as we call them, latissimus dorsi, here and here. The trapezius is also marked. A hell of a good portion of this practicum is just going to be identify this. 50% of the practicum, that's 50 questions out of 100, will be what I call name it's. Name this, name that, name this, name that. And then the other 50% will be a variety of questions, including what's the origin, insertion, and action, especially the action. But those are going to be multiple choice.
Charlie?
Too. Yeah. Yeah.
So for the 50% that is like name this, are they going to be pictures or no?
Yep. It's going to be picture heavy. 100 pictures. Here's the other part of your sheet for the latissimus dorsi, if you want to use it. Can you name a synergist? We'll get into synergism in a bit later. Muscles working together. Here's our scapula. Here's the spine of the scapula. This is the supraspinatus muscle. Trapezius is here. Do you think you'd have any trouble with the deltoid? Your shoulder? No. Here's the latissimus dorsi. This is the infraspinatus muscle. Infraspinous in the infraspinatus fossa. These two may be out of place. This is the gluteus medius, and this is the butt muscle, the gluteus maximus. Origins, insertion, and action of the supraspinatus. Here's the infraspinatus muscle. It just makes sense. There's the spine. It's in the infraspinatus fossa that you just learned. It's the infraspinatus muscle. When it says it's deep to the trapezius, means the trapezius overlies this. There's a couple of other muscles here that they're going for. Supraspinatus, infraspinatus. And then here's one extra. It doesn't hurt to name it now. This is the teres minor, and this is the teres major. The infraspinatus muscle is number 7, same picture. The subscapularis muscle is in the subscapularis fossa. So in anterior view, here's our scapula, subscapularis fossa, and muscle. You can't see the subscapularis from the posterior side, so none of these are the subscapularis muscle. It can only be seen from the anterior side. The rhomboids. These are the rhomboids here. Pull your shoulder blades together behind you, put your hands behind you, you're using your rhomboideus muscles. Both this colored and this regular muscle are rhomboids. Rhomboideus. Here's your flashcard. The teres major. I showed it to you a moment ago. Here was the teres minor. This is the teres major. These are on the scapula here. The infraspinatus, above it, the supraspinatus, and the teres minor, along with the subscapularis. Let's do that again. Subscapularis, teres minor, infraspinatus, both parts here, and supraspinatus up here. They make up what we call the rotator cuff muscles. The rotator cuff muscles. You'll eventually get a sheet from me asking you to remember that. The teres major is down here. Teres minor and major both start at the same place, but one stays up here on the scapula, the teres minor, this one. And this one, the teres major, heads off and goes to the humerus and pulls the humerus back, which is the same thing that the latissimus dorsi does. We don't normally immediately expect that the teres major and the latissimus dorsi are synergistic. They are, they do the same thing. They pull backwards on the humerus. The teres major is not a part of the rotator cuff. These little sayings, big goes to small, those are not mine. I've looked at them and most of them make sense. A couple of them don't. I guess I don't think the same way as everybody. Okay, teres minor is here. Teres major down here. Infraspinatus, supraspinatus. Along your back, if you catch yourself nodding off and leaning forward, you pull yourself up quickly. And you use these muscles here. These muscles are the erector spinae. Here it is over here, but only partially showing. This is much better. The erector spinae. Now, the way somebody wanted to remember this one is I love spaghetti. I don't see spaghetti. I do see like boxed spaghetti, uncooked. But these cause you to become erect and they pull on the spine. Now I've gone to the human muscles. The first one, you could call this the long one if you want, because the origin and insertion are in tense here, but you don't have to use that. You can use this one, or I was saying you could use this one for the models. However, the condensed version, which most people will use, also has the human models. So let's look at those same muscles. On the back here, here's the trapezius. This was the rhomboides, supraspinatus, infraspinatus. And there's a number 2 way down here. And that's the latissimus dorsi. This one's unlabeled, but it's the erector spinae that we just saw. This one is showing the latissimus dorsi. The same picture gets used many times. Here's the supraspinatus again, the infraspinatus, the rhomboides, there's no arrow. I can help you out there. And then the trapezius is over here. Now the trapezius is overlying the erector spinae on the model's right side. But here it is, the erector spinae being shown deeper. And then here's some muscles called the boxer's muscles because they're useful in jabbing. You can't give me boxer muscle as an answer, of course. These are the serratus anterior muscles. Very beautiful muscles. Saw the rhomboides. The pectoralis major and minor are on the chest, the upper chest. Okay, so when you beat your chest, you're probably hitting against the pectoralis major. Pectoralis major is going to pull the arm across the body. The origin is this entire area here. On this side, which is deeper, and now has had the pectoralis major cut right here and pushed back. This is the pectoralis minor. The deltoids are your shoulders. So if you have ever gotten a vaccination, or recently probably, that's where you got it, in the deltoid, right here. The supraspinatus back here, the spine of the scapula, and the infraspinatus. This is the teres minor. This is the teres major. This one would give you fits trying to figure out at first, but this is an arm extended with the palm up. This muscle here is the triceps. This muscle here is also the triceps. There will be 3 heads to the triceps. The third head is located in between the 2 heads of the triceps that are showing right now. Number 12 up here. This is the biceps brachii. I'm rotating towards myself. Now here's that number 12 that was on top. Now I'm rotating towards myself, and I have oh, I made a mistake. This slide is labeled biceps brachii, but there's no biceps brachii on it except for up here, because this is the brachialis. Now, go to the next one. This is the biceps brachii. And now the arm is extended the way I was suggesting, with palm up. Biceps brachii, brachialis. We're going lateral, further lateral, triceps brachii. Okay, let me take a look. I'm gonna kill that link. It doesn't go to where it says it does. You'll still have all of the stuff. Okay, that's all I'm going to show you to get started in the lab today. I think the best thing that you can do for yourself is to devise a study plan. Are you going to use flashcards? Are you going to make your own? And how are you going to work this in, or at least get a start with the test on Thursday? You don't have any less time than anybody else ever did because you meet twice as frequently. Any questions?
For looking at this,
Yeah.
if we were to make flashcards and we have, the muscle on one side, and then would it just be wise to be like, okay, if I want to know the trapezius origin, would I need to know that just off the top of my head, or is it more where, like visually, what it looks like?
It's easier if you know it off the top of your head.
Okay.
It really is. If you know it off the top of the head, I think you probably do know it visually. If you only know it visually, I don't necessarily know that you can put it into words.
Okay.
That's just the way I would study it. When you make flashcards, by the way, let me get a piece of paper here. Okay, you can see me?
Yes.
Okay. If you're making, oh, we can get back a little farther. If you're making flashcards, hang on. The X represents the picture. Okay. Most people then would put the origin, insertion, and action on the back side. That's so wrong. That's so wrong. Put the origin, insertion, function right down below it. And then take your flashcard. You can fold it up. And when you want the answer, you unfold it. And why do I think that's better? because when you're looking at it like this, you're seeing the question and the answer at the same time. You're not seeing the question on this side and the answer on the other side without the question. I think it sticks in your mind better if you see them both at the same time. If you've had trouble with flashcards in the past, or they really haven't lived up to their expectation, that may be one of the reasons. Okay.
I printed out all of the PowerPoints and it's similar to what you said, but it's all on one page, so I could kind of just do that.
Yeah,
Okay,
yeah, that'll work.
all right, thank you.
You're going to have a long weekend. I mean, 3 days also to study the material, and some as you go along. I would stick with the material that we just did for today. I would not, go ahead. I would definitely work on the lecture exam first until even if it is that, makes you almost sick to do it anymore.
Can you repeat what chapters on the lecture exam again, please?
Chapters 1, 9, 6, 2, and the part of chapter 10 that corresponds with the lecture notes today. Would I reread the lecture, the chapters? No. God, for God's sake, don't do that. The time to have read the lectures, chapters, was when you made the outline. So now, if you did a good job on your outline and cut it down and emphasize the major parts, reread your outline. Don't reread the book again. That's a waste of time. One time through on the book.
So basically just review all 4 of those outlines.
Yes, just read them through. They should make a lot of sense to you since you wrote them. Okay. And but as far as studying, the main thing is the notes. The notes where I earlier today showed you the the title headings and the word lecture after it. I showed you all the lectures up through today and one tomorrow. That's where the A is. Okay, well, I'll just hang around and answer your questions until the last person is gone. Usually I have to cut off the last person because they're gone, forgot to log out. But I certainly don't mind answering your questions. If you don't have any, well, then feel free to leave whenever you like, and have a good evening.
Bye, Charlie.
Thank
Bye.
you.
Yeah. Thank you.
Thank you,
Thank you.
Charlie.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Charlie, so when I'm looking at muscle diagrams, both the human and just like the model, when it's labeled or when it's like pointed to just like if it's just a human muscle like that and there's just one arrow, would we have to identify it that way, or would it be, you know, like 1, 2, 3, and 4, which one's which? Because it's kind of hard to tell.
No, one arrow, you name it.
Okay. And to know both, obviously, human and cat muscles and then
Right.
diagram as well. So both are fair game.
Yes, they will be.
Okay.
We'll have time to look at those.
Okay, thank you.
Thanks, Charlie.
I see you two are there again.
We are. Have a great afternoon.
Okay,
Okay, bye.
bye.
Bye, Charlie. Thank you.
Okay, bye-bye.